So it means dah start lah Firdaus? Kita start pukul 2, pukul 4, sorry. Sekarang baru 16 partisipan. 16? Sila join. Nine. Kita mula dah pukul 4 So Dr. Jam dah ready
Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nur Hidayat Binti Hussein, a clinical biochemist from Hospital Kuala Lumpur. It is a pleasure to be moderator for this last session of Day 1 MSCB Conference 2022. I'll be moderating subsequent lecture program as follows. Lecture 4 by Dr. Muhammad Jamsani Mat Saleh and lecture 5 by Dr. Raja Elina Raja Azidin. In a short while, we'll be hearing a presentation from Dr. Muhammad Jamsani. But before we get started, I wanted to take a few minutes of your time to briefly introduce our distinguished speaker. As what you can see from the slide projected on the screen, Dr. Muhammad Jamsani bin Mat Saleh is Head of Chemical Pathology Unit in Department of Pathology, Sebagai Hospital, and also State Chemical Pathologist in Penang. With his passion in lab management and lab informatics, he has led the statewide centralized tender and achieving standardization for Penang Chemical Pathology Service in year 2013, and a statewide LIS networking and connectivity within the state in 2018. Other than LIS, his special interest includes endocrine and special protein specialization. Dr. Muhammad Jamsani has received Outstanding Service Award twice in year 2014 and also in 2018. And on top of that, he is honored with Distinguished Service Award by Penang State for his contribution to the progress, development, and security of the state. Ladies and gentlemen, with his vast experience in LIS, may I invite Dr. Muhammad Jamsani to deliver his presentation entitled Integration of Lab Information System, LIS in Medical Laboratory, Lesson Learned. So this is the last session. Dr. Muhammad Jamsani, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Let me share my screen for a while. Thank you for the kind introduction and thank you for inviting me to this MSCB conference in 2022. So the topic that I'm going to discuss today is integration of laboratory information system LIS in medical laboratory lesson learned. So what I'm going to discuss this session is I'm going to look into what is the current state that laboratory information system being implemented in most of the laboratory in Malaysia. And then we will follow into some of the review from other reports that available regarding the LIS implementation in other countries, especially in UK and as well as Australia. And last but not least is I'm going to discuss and share the experience that how we implemented our statewide LIS in our state. So basically, the current state that we look into is what I'm talking about current state, that how is the LIS been interlinking into few hospital in a network or either regional or in the state, as well as how in future that let's say in Ministry of Health that the possibility of a single LIS can be managed through our country. So in the current state, there is significant variations in the numbers of system and the functionality that we have in our LI system. So the divergence of this approach to ICT is this due to the increased complexity across the pathology network. And this also can inhibit standardization of workflow and inhibit integration of patient records. So it become more or less of silos management rather than a more holistic approach of LIS management. So when we talk about current state, what I'm going to do that I'm going to divide that into 3 different current state. The first current state that when there is no integration in any network or in the state or regional. So what contribute to this phenomenon is because of the variation of the LIS and the functionality of each of the LIS. So there is so much non-standardization, or there can't be a harmonization in terms of the LIS. So basically, this kind of non-integration, what we do that we refer tests to other regional or referral lab based on paper-based and consignment, and this need to be captured and manually registered by the referral lab. And result can be received either by email or the manual dispatch, and then the result will be attached back in the respective LIS or hospital that sending the sample to the referral lab. So this is probably most of the lab that we are facing now from day to day where there is no integration. And there is some sort that there is a kind of standardized LIS system, but there will be no integration of the system, means that there is no direct communication between LIS to the LIS. So probably the lab that going to refer samples to the referral lab, they are able to have some sort like online registration. So tests can be online registration to the respective referral lab. But the result either can be received by email, or the result can be reviewed through the web inquiry or web system from that respective hospital. No matter how the result still require manually attached to the referring lab, and sometimes the referring lab may need to do a double test registration, one in their own LIS for documentation, and the second documentation will be on the web-based LIS from the referral lab. So this is still not a real-time result delivery. But when we talk about integration, mean that how we're going to integrate within a network or a state when they have a harmonized or standardization of the LIS. So this is enable lab-to-lab communication, means between lab A, B, and C in the network is able to be communicate, and is a possibility of paperless test registration, and enable a real-time result delivery. And the ultimate aim have to have all the pathology information in a single database. So this is probably what we are going to discuss when we talk about integration of the LIS. So the the integrated IT system actually require, why is it really required? Because it will better support our patients, the clinician, customer and staff. So this is, I mean, it can, you're able to remove a lot of unnecessary step or manual step that cause inefficiency in our service. And there is a fundamental agreement that a critical support to delivery of improved coordination in and between pathology networks is improved consistency in ICT, including a standardized laboratory information system. So in order for us to improve our service, actually, we are indeed require or need to have a good laboratory information system, which is an integrated system. And consolidation of the ICT strategies across the network has been identified by many and external stakeholders as a critical component in achieving efficiency across the state. So this is why it is important for us to look into integrated LIS. So when we want to move to common and consistent platform in ICT, it will lead to the development of the standardized workflow practice and standards. So this is, I mean, the benefit of having integrated LIS. We are able to improve information sharing for clinicians treating the patients, opportunity for improved laboratory logistics, including the rationalization of tests to efficient center of excellence. So we are not putting one center as a referral center all the while. Probably a new center can be developed as we have a good in terms of networking and as well as logistics. So this also can be more rational in terms of management a laboratory network. And it also can have a greater efficiency in the support and management of data within pathology. So now we will look into a few review from based on available report, how the successful story of the integration in terms of laboratory information system in some of the laboratory in other countries. So this is, I'm referring to one of the report from the Royal College of Pathologists when they have a topic of consolidation of pathology services lesson learned. So basically, the report from the experience of Wales in terms of how they consolidate their pathology services. So into the laboratory information or management system. In 2010, actually, they started to have a single LIS system where they are able to consolidate at the local, regional, and national level. And by doing that, actually, what they started to have, that actually they started with the standardization of the test reporting, standardization of the reference range, as well as the procedure based on the National Pathology Handbook of Wales. And they are able to have electronic requesting to request tests online, and also able to optimize of I mean, they are able to enhance their demand optimization, I mean how the test be requested by clinician by using a minimal risk testing interval throughout Wales. And as well as they have a Wales clinical portal result reporting, where all the report are able to be assessed across of Wales. So this is, I mean, one of the successful story that they have. But of course, the biggest challenge that they are noted in this report, that they are having insufficient IT resources to support and to expedite the implementation of this statewide LIS in their state, in their region. So the biggest challenge will be insufficient IT support, as well as they are saying that to design to have a unique system designed and built specifically for Wales has backfired, because the trach care lab was already in place in Scotland. So actually, there is already a kind of LIS available in Scotland, but when come to Wales, they rebuild everything from scratch. So instead of the system, if there is already a system that already exists elsewhere and a functional and safe, actually adoption of the existing system will be a preferred approach according to them, regarding instead of you start everything from scratch. So this is certain thing that can be learned from this report. And in recent year, November 2011, actually they do have a recent tender to call for a new tender to get for them to get a new laboratory system that to support every health board, hospital, and GP practice in Wales, and will integrate with the National Health System of Wales core health IT system. So this is after the first success story of their implementation, and they're getting a new tender specifically for the LIS to get their integrated LIS system. So how about in Australia, we look into the New South Wales Health Pathology. They do have their own proposed business model for a statewide public pathology service published in 2012. So in this report, the New South Wales Health Pathology Review that the statewide strategy for pathology ICT support should be implemented in their strategic plan. So this is some sort like important for their efficiency. And they did publish in 2000 for ICT strategic snapshot in their planning from 2015 to 2020 regarding the ICT strategy. So basically, this is what they have in their strategic priorities when they start at first at the standardized test directory. So as simple as if even though we don't have an integrated LIS, these should be started to have a standardized text directory, to have a standard test with standard nomenclatures as well as possible comparable result. And second is to have a system standardization. The pathology discipline level with the standard statewide services of middleware, and also their work initiated to deliver a single LIS across the state. And as well as data extract from the network laboratory information system, the ability to have this kind of data extract, and statewide test data available means standardized extraction for clinical and secondary use, as well as statewide approach to provide external clinical reporting implementation. And they do have the inter-LIS communication, electric orders and result established between network and externally. So means instead of manual communication, I mean the test order manually, they are looking forward into the inter-LIS communication. And last but not least is the opportunity in terms of the LIS consolidation, opportunity to identify, to reduce the number of LIS implementation ahead of the single state LIS. So this is when you want to implement something, as it's a big project of the LIS standardization, it's a very long way. And of course, a strategic priorities need to be given and need to be started. It may not be in a year, you can have a successful implementation, but sometimes it may need a few more years, long-term planning for you to have this kind of integration in the LIS. So based on their report saying that it will be benefit their customer organization, their staff, and as well as their service users. So this is how to review from Wales and as well as New South Wales pathology services. So in the last component, I will look into how is our LIS integration being implemented in our state. So it's also a very long journey back on 2013 and almost 9 years now in 2022, where we implemented LIS integration by step-by-step strategy. So before 2013, we don't have any standardized LIS in the state, and even some of the laboratory and some of the discipline do not have LIS in place. And by 2013 and 2017, we managed to get a common LIS for all the laboratories in chemical pathology services as well as serology, that without integration. And this is where we have a long-term planning to get a better LIS that are able to integrate. And back in 2018, actually, we are able to partially integrate our LIS in the state. And in 2018 to 2022, we managed to have a common LIS with a fully integration. And that also involved 3 disciplines in the state, which are chemical pathology, hematology, as well as microbiology. And with our current, in this year, we have managed to get a complete set of all the major disciplines in pathology to have a common LIS, and we are looking forward for a statewide LIS with a single data consolidation. So this is how the pathology Penang services. There are 6 hospitals in our state, and we are cater these 6 hospital plus almost 20 more than 25 health clinic in the state. So our strategic priority when we start to have the planning to have our integrated LIS, actually we start with the standardized test directory. So we ensure that all our terminology, reporting, and interpretive comment and practices are standardized throughout the 6 laboratories. And second, of course, through the state tender, we are able to have a standardized instrumentation in most of our services, and we are planning to have a statewide LIS consolidation for all the discipline. And actually in this year, we managed to get all the 4 major discipline with the same LIS in place. And we want to have inter-LIS communication. So by this having inter-LIS communication, we are able to mobilize our services in all the 6 laboratories, as well as the pathologists and scientific officers are able to report or to review any of the results within the state. And also, last but not least, is our ultimate aim is to have a single statewide result data standardization, so that the patient data are able to be reviewed in any of the hospital within the state by our customer or our clinicians. So this is what happened before 2013. As I mentioned earlier, we just have a standalone LIS, or some of the lab using middleware as their LIS, some lab running without any LIS service. And they are also interdisciplinary variation because the LIS come with a different tender in the state, and definitely there is no integration. And when we start to have our standardization of tender back in 2013 until 2017, based on our biochemistry and serology tender, we are given standalone LIS for all the laboratory, mainly for the chemical pathology and serology services. However, it's unable to integrate and not a web-based LIS for the web inquiry. But no matter how, this is that doesn't hinder us from a proper planning. So the first achievement that we managed to get that actually back in 2013, because of the standardization of the instrumentation, we are able to have a standardization in terms of the test terminology, reporting, reference, and also our interpretive comment for the chemical pathology service. And as well as we establish our own task force planning for a better integrated LIS, as we see that this is shouldn't be a prospect of our future's pathology services in Penang. So we are planning for a better integrated LIS in the next tenders. So that's why our aim is to have a statewide ICT with the end-to-end IT connectivity. So in the 2017 and 2021, when we managed to get a new statewide biochemistry and serology tender, we managed to get a new system acquired with the integration planning in place, and the chemical pathology and microbiology statewide with a single LIS. And this has come later with our state hematology tender in 2019. So all these 3 major disciplines come together with a single LIS in the state. So this is how our architecture of the LIS in our state. Basically, there will be a database or server in each of the hospital that link with all the analyzers, and our networking actually by using OneGovNet that enables for the clients and the other hospitals to review the result through the OneGovNet. And our proper planning for strategic planning actually to have a multi-center application based on the OneGovNet communication from the lab to lab, where the ultimate aim to have a patient data consolidation or synchronization, and this result actually will link to the OneGovNet are able to be viewed by the clinician and client, or even the test registration and test review or result review also can be done by our health clinic, as they don't have a statewide LIS with our hospitals. So back in 2017 and 2021, actually it come into 2 phases. The phase 1 is we are looking into the integration of the LIS, but this integration just basically the communication between HPP and all the district hospital. I mean, the district hospital and health clinic are able to register samples and tests through their HPP Hospital Pulau Pinang online web registration. The result is in the real-time printing. This is still a printing result, but the result required manual attachment to the respective hospital or laboratories LIS. And within this period, we are managed to get a phase 2 implementation of our ILAB matrix, where it is a fully integration across all the laboratories, and tests are able to register. We are able to register our tests and samples in every single LIS of each of the hospital. It means now, instead of using online web registration, the laboratory and the hospital will register in their own LIS, and this can be, there will be a communication with the HPP LIS, and the test can be sent and checked out to the LIS or any other respective laboratories. So but due to the limitation for our health clinic, they are still using our online web registration in Hospital Pulau Pinang. But the good thing about this, any of the lab can act as a referral or backup lab. And we are also to have these features of remote desktop for the pathologists. Basically, for any of the pathologists are able to report a result from any of the laboratories through the remote desktop of the respective LIS from the respective hospital. And now the result is real-time result that are back to the respective LIS from the respective requester. So the purpose of we are planning for this kind of ILAB metrics that to reduce the workload of the hospital receiving referral samples. So the hospital that are receiving referral sample is not required to do the demography of the samples, and then it will increase the turnaround time to reduce the human mistake and also the traceability and auditability based on the sample test action record. So our architecture design in our ILAB matrix configuration is to enable any of the lab to become a backup lab or a referral lab. So each of the hospital or each of the lab, we have their own server that enable registration and result return to respective of the hospital. And if let's say there is any breakdown or something wrong with our OneGovNet, every single laboratory are still able to function in-house without interference from other laboratories. So our topology of matrix or integration based on the mesh topology. So each hospital is peer directly with the rest of the member hospital without central server, because we are not having a central server as but what we have actually the peer system, pairing system. And if let's say any one of the site goes offline, will not affect the operation of the rest of the mesh or this topology. And this the purpose is to allow all members lab to interconnect into a big network lab with such connectivity, convenience, and flexibility on information exchange upon up many new possibilities. And as well as to cross reference samples with the lab backup each other, and also to have workload balancings. And in future, we can have a test specialization and centralization, or even the decentralizations, and data sharings and exchange without needing powerful centralized facilities, and full audit trails and real-time traceability on location and process. So the potential of this ILAB metric can be set up on existing cluster hospital as long as they are running on suitable version of our ILAB system, and can be scaled up and down easily by adding or removing members from the mesh, and data mining and trend analysis capabilities. So instead of having a single central server, we opt for a server of each laboratory to ensure that each of the laboratory are able to be functioning if there is anything happens to the central server. So is our system being tested? Yes, the system of this ILAB metric being tested, where there is a few possibilities that we are able to implement it before. In 2019, HSG hospitals are able to become a backup system for extended endocrine tests that been running in Hospital Pulau Pinang. But in view of the increasing number of COVID samples and they want to use their E411 analyzers for their COVID-19 samples patients. So they are sending samples and running in Hospital Seberang Jaya for the extended endocrine test, as well as Seberang Jaya has been backup lab when there is an analyzer breakdown in Hospital Bukit Mentajam, as well as when there is a few month renovation in Hospital Sungai Bakap. So samples, the routine biochemistry test being registered in Bukit Mentajam as well as Sungai Bakap and sent to Hospital Seberang Jaya for their routine biochemistry test, and the result is being a real-time result delivery. Means in this kind of topology, we are able to turn switch on and switch off the test, whether it will be in-house or it will be outside or referred test. So it's very convenient when anything happen. So any of the hospital actually can become a backup laboratories within our network. And this is also to show that how is the performance when we start to have our LIS integration. For example, in our immunoassay test, if the district sample sent to the hospital Pulau Pinang on the same day, actually most of the sample, more than 90% of the sample will be back to the respective lab with less than 6 hours. So I think within the same day. And even for hospitals branch, we don't run HbA1c in-house, but actually about 90% of the HbA1c result actually will be back to hospitals branch within 24 hours. This is possible with the LIS integration. So what is the future? Of course, in this current planning, our priority is to have result data centralization, because we are aiming for the unified statewide LIS access and services. And now we have a complete of 4 major discipline in pathology with unified or with the standardized laboratory information system. And we are able to have a complete statewide LIS for all the discipline in hospital. So the ultimate aim is to have the Penang pathology result data standardization. This is still an ongoing project. So the purpose of this result data centralization is to centralize all LIS result data to one central server and make the data accessible throughout the state on one single platform that to support single interface result access for a pathology report throughout the state by all MOH health facility. We are going to have a single interface remote test ordering. It's going to have a unifying login and centralized client access registration and management. So at the moment, every hospital have their own web inquiry, and doctors or client have to log in to different type of web inquiry of each of the hospital if let's say they want to review the result. But in future, when we have a data centralization, a single unified login, it means the clinicians are able to access the result throughout the 6 hospitals in the state. And it also allowing lab user or LIS user to access all historical data for patient trend analysis during result validation, and to facilitate statewide statistic generation, data mining, and trend analysis in future. It's also an additional copy of all LIS data for all the all the LIS, acting as alternative backup and access. So means this will be a statewide backup access for all the 6 hospitals in a single data centralization. And this central server to be located in HPP Hospital Pulau Pinang Data Center, and all the LIS in each hospital will be upgraded with capability to automatically transmit and store a copy of completed LIS result or report or attachment to the central server. All the LIS client will have a one-stop login access to this central server for query of result. And all LIS in each hospital will be upgraded to have this capability to search for patient historical record for central server, as well as capable to query and produce a statewide statistic in data mining. So this is the aim, our aim to have a single database so that our patient in the state are getting a better management, because even in my cluster Seberang Jaya, patient sometimes will be transferred from one hospital to other hospital, and will be a problem when the doctor want to review the result where some of the results already been requested in the respective hospital before it be referred to the other hospital, and they also were able to have a better efficiency in the cost, where duplicating of the request and unnecessary requests can be reduced as a result can be reviewed across the state. So what are some of the challenges that we face? Of course, with this kind of long project, really need a very strong stamina and also have a very good in terms of change management to ensure that staff either in the hospital level and health clinic are have a fine tune with us to accept the changes. And also this kind of project really need a good leadership and also commitment from all the discipline within the state to ensure that the successfulness of the project. And with this kind of project is actually it require engagement with all the stakeholders, either all the hospital directors, our IT officers, and all the pathology services within the state. And of course, we will also need to learn and to embrace some of the IT and knowledge and understanding in order for us and to ensure a successfulness of this project. And by ongoing, also we look into our OneGovNet capacity, and some of the hospitals actually require the upgrading of the capacity of OneGov in order to support this project. And some of the hospitals do have their own limitation that need to be overcome to ensure the successfulness of the project. So at last, this consolidation to a single state, what LIS is desirable, but practical transition time frame will be long. So it's really need a well planning, and that's why a proper planning and strategic priority should be done in order this kind of LIS integration are able to be implemented in any of the network or any of the states. By that, I thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Jamsani, for an insightful talk. So we still have time for Q&A session. So when I check in the Q&A box, there are several questions to be asked, Dr. Jam. So question number one, how can Hospital Pulau Pinang has the budget to get all the LIS integration?
Okay, thank you for the question. So basically, in my presentation, how the procurement of the LIS, I didn't discuss in detail, but actually it's based on our statewide tender. So it comes from each of disciplines state tender. We are able to acquire the LIS, but it is a long term, means that we don't get everything in one shot. So it must be in a statewide or planning. So for Ministry of Health hospital or laboratory, actually this is been allowed by Ministry of Health for us to acquire LIS through our reagent rentals tender. So this is how we do it, because we don't have any other ways of getting the LIS through the, through other method rather than the reagents rentals tender.
Okay, Dr. Jam. Then we're moving to next question from Nada Zulkifli. What's your point of view on cloud-based servers in terms of data security and LIS usability?
Because this is also, depend on what is the definition of the cloud-based server, because it's either it will be just a single-based server, or it will be a different server that only a data synchronizations. So that depends on the practice of the lab. As for Ministry of Health and for Penang State Pathology, of course, we are just using OneGovNet as our lab-to-lab communication and the synchronization of the data. So we don't use any other commercials internet for the communication. But probably there's certain things like firewall and other method to ensure that only person with registered and with a specific username and password only can be accessed to this kind of data to ensure that data security.
Okay, Dr. Jam, the second question from same participant. I think she asked about the data transcription check. Do you do the correlation? Yeah. How often is the correlation study conducted between main and backup labs?
This is not that frequent because we don't really put in place, but actually by right annually it must be done to ensure that the correlation between this is depend on the lab policy, but at least minimum annually need to be done to ensure that the correlation between one laboratory and the other laboratory can be done.
Okay, next question is, instead of using the same LIS, is there a possibility of linking different type of LIS for specific function, such as single demography and test ordering and sharing result throughout state of nationwide MOH facility?
This is actually a bit challenging, but nothing impossible, but it will because a lot of planning as well. As the paper that I reviewed from New South Wales pathology, actually some of the lab doesn't have a standardized LIS, but what they do that actually based on the middleware standardization or based on the middleware communication. So but in terms of our Ministry of Health, rather than we using existing LIS available, actually it's quite difficult to exploit, but that need to discuss at higher levels regarding the policy and other things, because MOH actually in line of having our own LIS, but how soon it will be a successful project, that also depend on other factors as well.
So next one is soalan Cipumas. Can you share some of attendance spec for LIS?
This need to be personal sharing, because I don't think I can share everything in this short Q&A session, but definitely we can share with you. I tak ingat siapa go somewhere.
Yes, bagian asset lah. So next one from Puan Rosita. In your opinion, what is the biggest reason LIS centralization can't be implemented on our own, i.e. without manufacturers' involvement?
Do you mean that we going to have one LIS without it linked to the whatever existing tender, reagent rental? Probably I think that's a question. I think at the moment it's quite impossible for Ministry of Health, because we already have the strategic plan to have our own LIS. Plus there is no specific allocation for service. I mean, this LIS come under service rather than reagent or consumables. So at the moment, I don't think there's other ways of doing that rather than whatever existing reagent rentals placement.
So I cannot see any question from the participants. So I hope that Dr. Jamsani already answered all the questions. You still have 3 minutes time. Any more questions? So I think there's no more question from the participant, Dr. Jam. Again, I would like to, on behalf of Secretariat of MSB Conference, again, I want to thank you for your insightful presentation. really hope that we can see you again in future, inshallah. So before the session end, kindly help to fill up the evaluation form. You can click at the post or quiz at the lower end of the task menu. So for all the participants, you may leave this webinar, go back to the main lobby and join following webinar session. See you there. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Dr. Jam.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, I just want to read Dr. Raja Elina in the chat room. Congratulations, Dr. Jam. Wish you every success in your effort. Okay.